All right. Hi. Hello, YouTube family. So, thank you for being here. Thanks for listening and subscribing. Today's video is going to be more about the body. We're going to go into joints and start with the muscles in the neck and shoulder area, and to promote what I at this point really seen as a participant in everything that's going on, which is vibration. I'm going to start with some Timshaw bells. So if you're listening on headphones or have this up loud, you may want to take a moment to pause it and turn it down. Okay. All right, then if I haven't mentioned it before, I'm going to mention it again. So bells are known far and wide to help shift energies, to bring protection, to begin and end certain classes, meditation. So, and the Timshaw bells here, sound in general is known to help move and shift emotions, thoughts, and we know vibrations. Okay, so that's why I'm bringing those in. Okay, so first I'm going to kind of show you guys the books that I'm using, and one I haven't used, I don't think yet with you guys. Trail Guide to the Body. Man, I got this book. So when I went to massage college, everyone was talking about this book, but we had these other books that I've already been sharing with you, like this giant kinesiology book. Well, do you know how much of it we read? Like a third of it. We went into the bones here, and we went through certain chapters, but for the most part, I think this book was somewhere between $150 to $250, and we used a third of it, right? Whereas this book, I know, brand new, can be up to that much. I got this one used online, I think for $45, which is a steal as far as I'm concerned, because this book is amazing. When I came to Oregon, I had to retest, and Oregon's test was they changed it like right after I took the test. And with everything going on with the world, let's put it that way, a lot of things have changed there as well. But Oregon was one of the hardest tests to pass, because you actually had to go in person, describe muscles, describe how they move, how you can help your client stretch them, all of that. So I had to restudy. I hadn't been to school in over 12 years. So I got this book, and of course YouTube nowadays. So this book is amazing because it breaks down each part of the body. So as you might be able to see along the sides, there's color showing here. So the first color is shoulders and arms, which is cool because we're kind of going into that today. And it goes into fascia, which I should definitely talk about today when we're going into the muscles. And so they have some great diagrams where they show the muscle and the bone, the position of the person. So it helps you with massage as well as getting to know each muscle. This is the subscapular fascia. So we're going to go into joints. So and it keeps going. So we'll go down a little further. And it has pelvis and thighs, but it goes through everything. It also talks about the bones. It talks about movement in general. And And then they use it like you're actually walking the body, as if you were actually taking a trail ride, a trail guide on the body. Okay, so I really like that book for that reason. It really helped me with movements of the muscles, because some muscles, for example, like the muscles around your ribs, you can move them, but generally you're not moving them. So, I mean, you're moving them, but you're moving them subconsciously. And so when it talks about like where muscles start and ends, this book was just fantastic. And I did great. I did great on my test. And I wish I would have had this book even in college. So this is a great book if you're interested in getting to know the body and muscles, or if you're into massage, physical therapy. Okay, so we're going to talk about joints, because we have a lot of joints, and I had started with the skull, so I want to kind of continue there, and then we're going to move down throughout the body. So your skull actually has up to 6 joints. There's even more, and the reason why they're called joints is because they were not together. They were not completely formed bones when we were born. So I've mentioned this before, and I've shown it in one of the other videos, where this part actually comes together. That's actually considered a joint. So I did leave some bookmarks for myself. Okay, so we have joints that don't move, joints that do move, and then joints that have certain functions. Okay, so we'll move into the shoulders, because that's something that we see as a joint. So that type of a joint is a more complex joint, because you have this bone, which is your clavicle. Okay, this is your clavicle. Most people know that bone. And then you have your humerus, and then behind we have our scapula, and we have muscles that all connect to all 3 of those bones to help us move them around. And actually one of those muscles, your subscapula, helps to move both your neck and your shoulder. Okay, so and the joints typically have a bunch of muscles around them to help them move. So then we have our elbows, then we move down to our wrists, and our wrist does a rotation, and then we have our fingers, which each have little tiny joints in between, right? So these are less complex joints because they only move in certain directions. But then we have like our wrist, which is a more complex joint because it moves in many directions. Okay, and so we're going to talk a little bit about like carpal tunnel. So I will say 2 things. I learned in massage college that you can actually treat and heal carpal tunnel. Another thing is in our industry, it can be a prominent thing that comes up because you're using your hands all the time. Also, in an older video, and we'll talk about this today too, since I'm bringing it up anyways, is your body is also emotional. Okay, and we can read about our bodies through many different things. You can learn about what's going on in your body through your eyes. I mean, I've known that, but there's even more technology. You can learn about what's going on with your body by looking at your tongue. You can learn what's going on with your body by looking at your hair, nails. Okay, looking at how you go to the bathroom and how many times you go to the bathroom. There's so many ways to kind of self-diagnose our own bodies. Well, one of them is, so with your wrists, first I brought up carpal tunnel. So we have these little strips that go around our wrist because we have these muscles that come from our arm, especially near our elbow, and some of them even go all the way up here. and or actually all the way up here. So those little strips, and I mentioned the word fascia. So if you've ever eaten meat and you notice this weird lining over even the fat, or you'll take the skin off, but there'll still be another piece of like really thin skin, so to speak. Well, that's actually fascia, and it's this tissue that holds things together. And you find it on every single thing in our body. And it would be under our skin, okay? Our skin would be like our whole body's fascia, so to speak, but even our skin is in layers, okay? And so that's how everything is in our body when it comes to muscle, the synovial fluid, your spine, everything is wrapped in this material in your body, which is called fascia. And when your fascia is tight, you feel it. You can get muscles stuck. That can be caused from dehydration, all these different type of things. So when it comes to carpal tunnel, what ends up happening is, because you're using, so when can you see my muscles moving? And then tendons moving right here. So here you are typing, okay, or you're using your wrist all day long. You see how those muscles are contracting and relaxing. So what's happening is, to make sure that this muscle doesn't like pop out of my skin, it has this wrap around it. And what ends up happening is, when you have excessive use of your wrists and fingers, that wraparound becomes looser and looser and looser. And so what's happening is your muscle has its own mind. It wants to hold on to your bones. If your muscles think they may come off of your bones, they will work even harder to stay on your bones, even to the point where they will make you let go of something. Like, you can be holding on, and what's happening is your muscles start thinking they're going to detach from your bone. So in order to keep that from happening, it makes you release. So in those stories where like people aren't strong enough, it's not necessarily that. It's your muscle already has a programming, okay? And so what starts happening is you start feeling that. And so when they do carpal tunnel surgery, and now it's much less invasive, what they do is they will tighten the tendons, and they will tighten the little wraparound. Okay, now I mentioned before about emotions, and in this specific field, which is massage, carpal tunnel has been known to create. And then typing, working with your hands excessively, outside of all the times we use our hands for everything else, okay? And so it's called the Gumby of emotion. I don't know if you guys, I'm totally dating myself. If you don't know who Gumby is, he was this kind of like cartoon character back in the 70s and 80s. That was this like rubber toy that moved around. I think there's even like a depiction of him in Toy Story. So it's just a basic body, doesn't really have much to it. But to describe what I'm talking about is, if you look at things emotionally and how pain shows up in our bodies, there are several things that you can add to that, which is your hands and your arms have to do with holding on to something. So if you're having pain in your fingers and in your hands, you must be holding on to something very tightly. And it could be your job, it could be a certain emotion, it could be a certain thought. But mostly the idea is to try to let go of whatever emotionally you're holding on to, and that should help with relieving the pain. And then you move up your arms, right? The farther it is away from your arm, or from your shoulder, the more you're holding on to it, almost like consciously, okay? The more it's over here, it's something you're holding on to subconsciously. And because this is a complex joint, it could be a complex emotion. It could be childhood trauma. It could be something where you felt cold for a long time. So if you're cold for a long time, you tend to bring your shoulders up to your neck, right? But over a long period of time of doing that, you can end up shortening these muscles, overstretching these muscles back here, and then when you're warming up, an injury may happen. And then your neck, so your head could be what you're thinking, what you're focused on. If you're getting migraines or you're getting jaw pain, there is literally, if it's jaw pain, it might be like you're not speaking up, or you need to speak up, or you're not being listened to. And then it can relay to your ears. And if it's in your neck, it's a pain in the neck. If it's in your head, it could be like, you know, pain in your head, or like overthinking. And then it comes to your chest, right? This is where emotions are kept, even with your stomach and gut, you know, like gut feeling, intuition. When it comes to your spine and your back and your hips. So your spine is your support system. The closer it is to your head, the more it is about like thinking and what you're putting upon yourself. In your mid back, it has to do with support. And are you feeling supported? Are you around people who are supported? Are you supporting yourself? And then when it comes to your hips, well, this is where it comes to family and basically our root, right? So if you're having pains in the hip, it can relate to again, trauma, sexual trauma. It can relate to injury. Most of our emotions start in our groin area and then move throughout our bodies. And then when it comes to your legs, well, what do you use your legs for? You use them for movement. The closer it is to your hips, the closer it has to do with something related to like the root or something that goes deep. Once it comes to your knees, we know that comes to like focus. Your knee is the first thing that pops up when you're walking. So if you're having knee issues, there's something that is almost like action based that needs to happen in order to help relieve the knee pain. And then the further down your leg, it's like being stuck in mud all the way down to the ankles. So there are ways of like checking in with your body that way. This is what they talk about in meditation. You send air to those areas, but it's also to bring a correlation of releasing certain stuck energies. Okay, so went to the shoulders, and there's a joint, of course, in the back of our skull where our cervical spine meets our skull. That's a joint, and that's a less complex joint, but it's necessary to bring rotation. And then you go down to your hips, and those are a more complex joint because you have your femur connecting to your hip sockets, and they're literally sockets, same with your shoulders. We have a lot more muscles in our lower body, especially with our glutes, which are very strong, and it holds our body upright. Okay, then you move down to your knees, and then your ankles are like our wrists. You have a complex, you have this rotation, flexing and pointing with your feet. Not quite as much rotation as your hands. You can't pick up things with your feet. Some people can, but with concentration. Okay. And then same with the toes, are more simple joints, so they move in just a certain direction. Okay. Now, as I've said before, muscles control your bones. So you have this awesome skeletal structure with a multitude. I mean, I think we have 300 and something muscles, and it's split, right? So you have them on both sides. Yeah, I can't remember how many muscles. Can't think of it right now. I think I mentioned it, but we talked about bones before. Yeah. Yeah, 300. That's how many days are there? 300 and something muscles in the body. It goes on both sides. I mean, just in your arms alone, you have what we call flexors. So this is flexing, and extensors. extending your hand and flexing your hand. And then down, same with your feet, okay? You have muscles that help point your toes and muscles that help flex your foot and your toes, right? And help you keep walking. And when you look at the structure of muscles, even this front picture, okay, here is a picture of what we call the trapezius, and see how, so here's the scapula, and here is the subscapula. It also comes up and connects somewhere back here on the neck. But see how this trap, so it starts down here along your spine, also connects to your scapula, and comes to the front and connects to your clavicle, actually, because this is the back of the body, and then goes all the way up to the very, like the occiput of your skull. So this muscle helps move your shoulder, helps do this with your back, and helps do this with your neck, and even the forward, this movement. Actually, it helps with bringing it back. So you have muscles in the front of your neck that help bring your head forward. And so it extends the muscles in the back. And then when you go like this, it's actually flexing these muscles. This muscle is the one who's actually helping me do this. And then these muscles relax. And then we also have this rotation, this rotation. I mean, it's pretty cool, but it's also trippy, because if you didn't have these muscles, your head would just kind of flop around. Your whole body would flop around. But it's weird to me, like your head, because it feels so easy to hold it up. So, oh, and then also what I wanted to point out is like how, like designed it is. You see mathematics, vibration, and design and everything. I mean, it just floors me. And this is layers of muscle, okay? And so that's the other thing. And it's even showing you, like, in this first picture, how this is actually a joint. You see that? And then it comes down, and then your ribs come off of it. So that's another joint, right? And your ribs are connected with cartilage, with a really thick, hard cartilage. That's why when you pop a rib, when you break a rib, it's so painful, because you don't just break the bone, you also move the cartilage that is kind of holding your ribs together in between. And that can be really painful. And it takes a little longer to heal in some instances than even the bone. It could be really tender. It's similar to the cartilage on our nose, but even harder. Okay, and our cartilage on our ears, even harder. Muscles. I talked a lot about the upper muscles. Okay, so I want to add, I want to start adding some things. We talked about vibration, so I'm going to talk about this book a little bit. Vibration for Medicine in the 21st century, or for the 21st century. And so what's interesting is this book in the beginning has a diagram like this, where it shows your auric fields and the different connections, your thought forms, how they come, your chakras, including like physical body, etheric body, astral body, mental body, and causal body. It also goes into describing proof that light energy exists. This is pretty interesting. It shows a leaf, and they end up breaking the leaf, and they do a light print. We did this in like kindergarten, school back in the day. And you'd still see a whole outprint of the leaf, showing that the life was still there. So in this one of the things that I wanted to share with you guys was, this came off of page 267. It's the last paragraph in this, and it talks about, if we go back into the late 1950s and the early 1960s, while American space efforts were still in their infancy, oh, that's right, a number of Japanese researchers began studying the effects of weak magnetic fields. Okay, So that's right. I was very interested in this because it talked about when the astronauts went into outer space and how because they weren't in the magnetic field of gravity that they had all these different kind of problems like bone loss, density, which would make sense because our bones are built to have weight, right? And everything in our body is built to have some kind of magnetic I would say like strength is the best way to describe it. Magnetic gravity. I mean, because it's electromagnetic. Gravity is actually electromagnetic. It has to do with a magnetic field. And I think that that's why we have the minerals we have in our bodies. Anyhow, why did I want to... Oh, okay. So that's a field of vibration. And I think it relates to earthing. This is why I shared in a couple videos back before about earthing, just putting the feet on the ground. There's also mats you can buy that will help bring like the earth into the home. Because I think it has something to do with that exact thing, the magnetic field. And you think about all the things we wear, like shoes. You start with shoes, it's breaking the magnetic field. Then you put clothes on. Then you live in a house. Then you get in a car, right? Like, and then you're around all these other electromagnetic energy. Excuse me. Electromagnetic energies without any information as to actually what's happening while you're not connected to the planet, right? Or to the earth and its magnetic field. And they've proven, like in that same paragraph, they talk about how very quickly once the magnetic field is reintroduced, the body starts healing very quickly. So in this book, which talks about a new chakra healing by Cindy Dale, and I know my aunt was just telling me another book that she has. I think something to do with the auric field. But, so here's another. Let's find a better photo of basically the same kind of concept and diagram of the body and the chakras. And this is a book on the chakras. I mean, it still goes into the body and describes all different kinds of things. Like, I guess this would be, I copied this out of the book. This is out of a different book, but very similar. Okay, it shows how the chakras spin. This is our thought field, mental centers, will centers. Your will is in the back. The front is our feeling centers, our emotional centers. And from what I learned is the spin in the back is clockwise and the spin in the front is clockwise. So that there's this constant kind of flow of energy. So I find it interesting. And then, let's see what I got. Just a couple minutes. All right, I'll bring this out next video. And this one talks about like meridian points. Just show a quick picture. Meridian points. This is the touch of healing. Jinsenjutsu, which is another vibrational healing technique. There's all these different types of techniques. Yeah, I think that's the share for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned some stuff. If you have any questions or any parts of the body or things you want to learn about the body that I can share with you, please let me know. All right, before we jump off, I'm going to bring the Tim Shaw bells in. So if you're listening, you have this turned up loud, you might want to turn it down just a little bit. All right, here we go. It helps me feel better. I don't know about you guys, but it does. It really does. It just kind of just helps me breathe. All right, until next time. There is also going to be a video about Valentine's Day and the goddess that will be posted today as well, but it was filmed on actually Valentine's Day last Monday, so enjoy that. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Oh, yeah. Yeah, take care of yourselves. Take care of yourselves. Until next time.